for whatever reason, that triggered me, and I just felt like I don't belong here. Being gay and probably the only gay man in the group, that was part of my story at the time. I just felt like I wasn't one of the guys or one of the men. I started to kind of remind myself of this tool that I learned. It's useful as long as you use it, as long as you practice it. So it can be something you just do once, and it might give you a little benefit, but it's not going to be as helpful as if you keep using it, keep trying it. Okay, welcome back to the Good Life Lab with Dr. Dave. I'm Dr. Dave. I'm a therapist, credentialed coach, and positive psychology researcher, which basically means I study the science of happiness and try to practice it myself and share that with other people. This recent series goes 4 weeks, but this first week is about relationships, and I'm trying to do kind of a vlog style where I just share some of my experiences and the tools I use to boost my own mental health and well-being. And in this first week is really about relationships. So the first couple videos I did this week kind of explain a tool I use to assess where I am in terms of my mental health and well-being. In the second video, I went into a tool called the dominant story, which helps you identify things that you tell yourself that might be negative, and then how to challenge that. And sometimes that's enough, that works for me when I'm faced with a relationship challenge. But then in this kind of third part of this first series on relationships, it's going a little deeper. If that dominant story framework doesn't work, then something I also have used for myself and also with my clients is called cognitive behavioral therapy, or rational emotive behavior therapy, which is very much an evidence-based tool, proven over decades now, and how effective it can be used for things like addiction and anxiety and depression. So very effective if you use it accordingly, consistently, like anything else. And just remember this, I am a therapist, but this is just for personal information and to supplement your therapy with somebody. So hopefully you're in a relationship with a therapist if you need one. Please don't take this as therapy in itself. It's something to kind of boost. It's something that can boost your kind of well-being, but not a replacement for therapy. So, like I said, recently I've been faced with some relationship challenges that have reminded me of things that are sometimes bring me down. And so some just kind of obstacles or relationship conflicts or things that get in the way. And even as a therapist, I'm sure it's, we're not perfect in how we do things, even though I have a PhD in counseling and education. So I spent years and decades studying well-being kind of tools and tips, but very hard to always keep them in mind. So I've just been kind of in this funk recently and wanting to kind of remind myself of some of the tools I've learned and used, and also share those with others. So if I'm really feeling kind of in a funk for a few days or a week, and some of these other things aren't working, I will sometimes kind of come back to this cognitive behavioral framework, which is essentially it takes you through this process. It's called the ABCDs, and the A stands for activating event, B stands for belief, C is consequence, which is often can be emotional or behavioral in some way. So in my case, in relationships recently, it's been more emotional. I guess behavioral too, because the consequence of something that happens and my belief about it, I will withdraw even more sometimes, which just makes it worse. So there's a consequence to things that happen, and then the D in this ABCD process is about disputing, challenging some of these beliefs that we tell ourselves about relationships, about things that happen. And then there's actually an E in the rational emotive behavioral kind of model, and that's the effective new belief or behavior that you want to build. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through an example of my life in a relationship that was kind of tripping me up, and a belief I was telling myself that held me back, and then what I did to kind of navigate my way through that. So and tell the story about when I was a lot younger, probably my 30s, and I was in a men's group, a support group, and all with friends. And so we'd been meeting for a while, and I was good friends with 2 of the 4 other guys, I think, really good friends with. I just showed up one night to one of the guys' house where we had the meeting, and noticed that there are 4 bottles of Snapple on the counter, and there were 5 people, and I was the last one there. And for whatever reason, that triggered me, and I just felt like I don't belong here. And also, being gay, and probably the only gay man in the group, I'm pretty sure they're all straight. That was part of my story at the time. I just felt like I wasn't one of the guys or one of the men, and just reinforced that fact. Seeing these 4 bottles of Snapple and 5 people made me feel reinforced for me that I didn't belong. Just that carried through the kind of the group time, and then I left and drove. I was on my way home, driving. I just felt this great sadness kind of come over me, and turned into like despair, because I just didn't feel like I belonged. And so I don't remember. It's been like quite a while, like 20, 30 years now. But I remember it being significant that it took me a while to get out of it. But I started to kind of remind myself of this tool that I've learned. And I've spent, it's taken courses on this. I've used this in my life for decades. And it's useful as long as you use it, as long as you practice it. So it can be something you just do once, and it might give you a little benefit, but it's not going to be as helpful as if you keep using it, keep trying it. So which means taking, every time you kind of have this negative emotion that you don't feel like you can get past, take out a piece of paper, write down ABCDE, go through this process, like what is the activating event? For example, in this case, for me, the activating event was seeing 4 Snapple, drinks, and having 5 people. So that was enough of an event to trigger something. And the belief kind of that I was telling myself, sometimes you don't know what the belief is right away. You have to kind of explore what that is. That really was, I don't belong. I'm not a true part of this group of men. And so it was more than just I don't belong. It was like I think it was connected to I don't belong as a man, because being gay and being different. And so then that kind of takes you to the consequence. What I did with that is I withdrew kind of in the group, but then even afterwards I just felt this lingering sadness and then this despair for quite a while. That was kind of the consequence. And then the D is disputing, to kind of begin to look at, sort of like what I said last week, this dominating story where you have this kind of negative story you tell yourself, but you want to challenge that with examples when that's not true. Sort of the same thing, you dispute. Is there real evidence? The question, you can ask this question of yourself, is there real evidence of this belief that I'm believing, that I don't belong in this group? Is there real evidence there? And then also, could there be other explanations? And in my case, why would there be 4 bottles of Snapple on the counter and not 5? Well, it could be that there's 1 extra in the fridge, which I think that was the case. It could be that one person already drank his, and it really, the implication is that has no bearing on whether or not I belong in the group. And disputing it, so that has virtually nothing to do with my being a part of that group. It just was really seriously in my mind, telling myself that I didn't belong for whatever reason. Really, for me, it's gone back to the history of being gay and not feeling a part of things throughout my life. So it just triggered me in that area. So in this last kind of step of this is the E, effective new belief or behavior. So oftentimes I think, what can I tell myself, the belief that often contributes to a new behavior? What can I tell myself to counteract or combat this old belief that I don't belong? And it could be as simple as, I do belong. That bottle of Snapple had nothing to do with anything. I do belong in this group. They do show signs of liking me and wanting me there. They ask me to be part of the group. We do things outside the group. They show that they like me. So just kind of trying to remind yourself of things that are more accurate, more likely and true and positive and healthy for you to believe. It could be identifying a core belief. And for me, in this case, could be my worth and belonging in this group aren't defined by a bottle of tea. People value me whether or not they remembered an extra drink. Even if they've forgot to bring 5 drinks and there are 4 people in the group, there's no reason for me to believe that was because they were trying to keep me out of the group, which was not the case. So that exercise, if you can do it consistently, take the time to write it down, and better even yet, to talk to a therapist or a friend about some of these things, kind of walk through what you're believing and have them also help you challenge those beliefs. This process, very much like if it becomes a habit, can be something that begins to release you from some of the sadness you might feel around relationships and bring some renewed perspective to what you're thinking about and how you're feeling in relationships. And so since I've begun, even today, I think it's a Monday, and I woke up feeling like in a funk, and I've been productive, kind of pushed through that, but just by doing what I said in the first video this week is to take some time to assess where you are in a few key areas. So, for example, I mentioned the 4 pillars or keys to mental health that I use for myself and for my clients is, do I feel connected to other people? Do I feel connected to something greater than myself? Do I feel connected to a purpose or meaning in life? And do I feel connected to myself or my story? And having those is kind of like pillars, but also gauges for how you're doing on a scale of 1 to 10 in each of those areas. That in itself helps me just begin to bring perspectives. Like, no, I'm lacking connection, relationship connection. I need to connect with somebody. I'm lacking connecting to something greater than myself. And for me, it's walking in nature, or I'm lacking being connected to my purpose. And so, just by going through that exercise in itself sometimes gives me perspective enough to kind of get out of this funk. But if that doesn't work, then I look at those 4 areas. And for me, relationships was low this week. And just by kind of doing some of those things, now it's, mid-afternoon when I'm recording this, a few hours since then, I've been able to take a walk outside, kind of take care of my transcendence needs, and connect with my partner, and do a few other things. I really feel much better even within one day of doing some of these things. So I hope that you also benefit from some of these things and some practical tools that you can use to begin to grow an awareness of your own mental health and well-being. And there are things that you can do to challenge yourself and come out of these funks that we find ourselves in, even as therapists. Let me just kind of bring this around, wrap up. So you can find some of these tools online. They're very prevalent, but you can look at my website, and I'll provide information in the description below. I'm also offering a product that really helps you walk through creating a project for yourself, a bigger project around mental health, well-being, happiness, meaning, purpose. So if that sounds of interest to you, you can check out my website, look at the link below, and it'll take you to how to get access to that product. All right, well, thank you again for joining me today. And next week, we'll be looking at how to grow in this area of transcendence and spirituality and connecting to something greater than yourself. So look forward to that next time. All right, have a good day.